Good evening, everybody. Genesis 27. If you got a Bible, it's what we're going to be looking at tonight. Genesis 27.
Anything else you want?
What do you got?
I don't know. Water.
Appreciate it. How do you feel about yourself tonight? You feel it's important that you think about that. Do you have a good self-image or a negative self-image? And where'd that come from? Where'd you get your self-image? So much of what we are today is a result of how others have treated us or dealt with us, and that's why I'm worried about Denny's self-image tonight. I'm afraid we're damaging him too. As you can tell, we here at the Cowboy Church have a pretty good control of our egos. We're able to laugh at ourselves as much as anybody else. Do you believe what people say about you? Have you ever considered the possibility that they might be wrong? And I think it's something you should do. Human beings, we're vulnerable people. We're easily broken or injured emotionally. But let me say it like this. The problem with using our words to say good things or bad things about others is that you don't have to be even right to hurt somebody. You know, you could be completely wrong about them and still can hurt them. We often say in preacher world, in the preacher business, that we have to be extremely careful with our reputation because we don't even have to be wrong, just accused. You know, and that's enough to ruin a person's ministry. So I'm going to encourage you tonight, as we jump into this story in Genesis 27, is to not believe what others say about you, just believe what God says about you. Because that's the most important thing of all. Because He's the only one that really knows you and really knows all about you. You know, we always used to say about the American Indian, he would always say, don't judge until you walked a mile in my moccasins. And the truth of it is, none of us know what it's like to walk in your shoes, to be you. And so we need to be less judgmental. And I think if we as modern Christians in America could become a little less judgmental, we would bring a lot more people to Christ and see a lot more people in churches and living the Christian life. Because sometimes we in the church can become very rough on the world out there. We get a us versus them mentality, and we think we're perfect and they're not. And the truth of it is that's wrong. Tonight we're going to be looking at the story of these two young guys we started talking about last Thursday night, Esau and Jacob. And we're going to look at these two guys tonight. They are brothers. Last time we talked about nurture or nature, and we looked into why they were the way they were, because here were two boys born in this family, the same mother, same father, and one of them was an outdoorsman, hairy, he was a mountain man, and then the other one was kind of liked to stay around the house. The other one was outside, and one of them was inside. I said last week, Jacob, he liked to watch cooking shows on TV. And Esau, he liked to watch the hunting shows, the fishing shows. Well, here we have these two kids tonight, and we're going to take their lives, we're going to pick up from where we left off last Thursday night. We're going to take them because they were born with certain tendencies. They were born, one was effeminate, one was masculine. They were born with tendencies. And we talked about last week that no matter how you're born, whatever tendency you may have, that is no excuse for the way you live. You get to choose how you want to live and what you want to be like. You may have been born with a tendency, but you still choose how you're going to live your life. So, we've got these two guys. Now, tonight we've got another little issue that we need to blend into this story. Because tonight we're going to be talking about Isaac and Rebekah, and they're leaving this world. They're old, and they're preparing their legacies, and they're getting ready to depart this world. And so they want to pass their legacy and heritage and blessing onto their children. And tonight is a story about blessing, but I'm going to talk use the bigger word and call it influence. I'm going to call this sermon, The Amazing Power of Influence. And because each of us tonight have the ability to influence. Now, I have, through the years, noticed that when Alcoholics Anonymous, whenever they start dealing with an alcoholic, they will say that every alcoholic influences a certain number of people. I think the number was 15 at one time, but it may be even more than that. But one alcoholic influences the lives of 15 other people. And that's the negative side of it. But the positive side is that we as believers, we can influence the lives of hundreds of people. But particularly, all of us have specific influence in lives. Some more than others. But we all are in that business of influencing others. And so we have now Isaac, the old man Isaac, the one that Abraham had prayed for so long. And now Isaac's here, he's married, he has children, he's getting old, and his life is coming to an end. And he's wanting to pass a blessing on to his children. He wants to bless them. He wants to leave them better than they were before. Now, tonight we're going to also look at this story, and I want to call this tonight as a master class in deception, manipulation, and guile. This is a master class in it. And if you want to learn how to really mess up your kids, you pay attention tonight to this sermon. Because we're going to get to watch these two godly people, and they're going to just mess their kids up. And by manipulation, by deception, by guile. And so, as I said, if you want to create black sheep in your family, you pay real close attention tonight. Now, the villains in this story, every story has to have a protagonist or a hero and a villain. And so we're going to look at the villains tonight, and the villains in this story are godly people. They're God's best. They're God's chosen people. These are the patriarchs of the Jewish faith. These are the heroes, the ones that we all look up to. But they are the villains in this story tonight. The one that we have the most problem with is the one that causes the least problems tonight in this story. And we hear so much about Esau and how he was rough and did not care for his traditions. But Esau is the only one in the story tonight that deals honestly with the family. Everybody else in the family tonight is dealing dishonestly and manipulating each other around. So again, these are some of the best people in the world. But tonight, we're going to see them acting in the worst of ways. So I guess what I'm going to say is tonight, there are so many good, godly people here in this room. But I happen to know that even in good, godly people, if we're not careful, we will control, manipulate, and use all kinds of head games to trick, fool, bring people to our ways of thinking. Get done what we want to get done. And the godly man, the real man and woman that loves the Lord, lives in a certain way that they don't manipulate others or try to control others. So tonight, that's where we're going to kind of go with this story. Would you read with me now in chapter 27? When Isaac was old and his eyes were so weak that he could no longer see, he called for Esau, his older brother, and said to him, "My son, here I am," he answered. Isaac said, "I am now an old man and don't know the day of my death." In other words, he said, "I'm getting older now. I don't know how much longer I'm going to live. I just don't know." "Now, then, get your equipment, your quiver and bow, and go out to the open country to hunt some wild game for me. Prepare me the kind of tasty food I like and bring it to me to eat so that I may give you my blessing before I die." Now you're beginning to notice the manipulation. All right, he's going to bless this boy, but to do it, he has to have conditions. If you go do this and you do that, you get your bow, you go kill me a deer, you cook it up. If then I will bless you. So it's conditional blessing. And we begin to see this start twisting in the family. Now, before I go any farther, I hope tonight you will bring yourself to this story and walk in here. And if you find in your life that you are conditioning, controlling, and you're loving people if they perform well, or loving them if they do good things for you, I'm going to ask you tonight to truly consider that you change that attitude and that lifestyle and love people despite all. Okay, let's keep reading now. Now Rebekah, I'm in verse 5. Now Rebekah was listening as Isaac spoke to his son Esau. Now Rebekah's the mother. When Esau left for the open country to hunt game and bring it back, Rebekah said to her son Jacob, "Look, I overheard your father say to your brother Esau, 'Bring me some game and prepare me some tasty food to eat, so that I may give you my blessing in the presence of the Lord before I die. Now, my son, listen carefully.'" You can see that? Son, listen carefully. She got him in the corner. "Hey, come here. Step over here. Son, now listen carefully. I'll tell you something here. We're going to pull a little trick here. Come over here and listen. Okay. So now, my son, verse 8, listen carefully and do what I tell you. Go out to the flock and bring me 2 choice young goats, so that I can prepare some tasty food for your father, just the way he likes it. Then take it to your father to eat, so that he may give you his blessing before he dies." Jacob said to Rebekah his mother, "But my brother Esau is a hairy man, while I have smooth skin. What if my father touches me? I would appear to be tricking him and would bring down a curse on myself rather than a blessing." So Jacob is having some conscience pangs here. He's saying, I don't want to do this, mother. Now let's go back just one step further. There was another time Esau was out hunting, and he stayed out longer than his provisions, and he was hungry, starving to death. Finally he got to the camp where they all lived, and he was just famished. He was so hungry, and he told his younger brother Jacob, the trickster, the con man, he said, "If you'll give me something to eat, I will trade it for my birthright." And so Jacob took advantage of his condition and traded him for his birthright. Now, that was birthright. Now we're coming to a different thing called the blessing. Tonight we're coming down to these are spoken words that the father would say to his children, and he would bless them with the language, with words, and bless them and sort of cast a vision for their life. That's what this blessing was. Now, so we find here that this is going on, and the questions are being asked, the manipulation starting, the control, all the things we don't want in our families and in our lives is going on right here. Now, I want to say again, there's a little deception in us all. We are by nature deceptive. We're human. And human beings that's the way we are in our fallen conditions. Now, we hold the power in our hands to deceive others. We're capable of it. And I want you to be honest with yourself tonight. Every one of us in the room is capable of deception. Jeremiah 17:9 says, "The heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked." And he's right. The human heart is capable of deception. And probably we've all done it today in one way or another. We've deceived, we've done some deception to try to control somebody. We just need to admit it. That's who we are. And we need to change it. Now, Jacob was called a trickster or a con man. Now, let me say to you, he did not have to believe what was said about him. He could have just said, "You know what, I do have that tendency. I know I was born grasping my brother's heel, and I know I have the tendency to be a con man or a trickster." But he didn't have to act on it. He did not. Now, we know Jacob was born with certain tendencies, but he didn't have to act on it either. Rebekah, the mother, encouraged Jacob's curse by teaching him how to manipulate others to get what he wanted. Mother teaching son. Godly mother. Mother in the line of Christ. Mother in the line of the Jewish nation. Taught her son how to be deceptive. Okay, folks, we need to find a way to cut down on deception in our lives. We need to find a way to be less deceptive as we live with each other and learn to do this better. So as we do that, let's see if we can take this story, turn it around, look inside, and see if we can find some life lessons that will help us be less deceptive with our lives. So here's what this story teaches us. First thing I've noticed in my outline is that we're easily influenced to be deceitful. It's easy to talk us in to being deceitful. We used to have this kid at school when I was in high school, and he was so influenceable. I mean, you could talk him into anything. You ever had a kid like that? Been around a kid? You could talk him into anything. And we'd get him to school and we'd say, you don't look very good today. Are you sick? You're pale. Are you okay? And it wasn't long, he'd go home, he's sick, He'd influence him. And we are easily influenced. Okay. Now let's keep reading in verse 13. His mother said to him, "My son, let the curse fall on me." There it is. "Just do what I say. Go and get them for me." Just do what I say. I'm going to teach you, son, how to be deceitful. So he went and got them and brought them to his mother, and she prepared some tasty food, just the way his father liked it. Then Rebekah took the best clothes of Esau, her older son, which she had also in the house, and she put them on her younger son Jacob. She also covered his hands and the smooth part of his neck with the goat skins. Then she handed to her son Jacob the tasty food and the bread she had made. Well, Rebekah, Mama, she fanned the flames of deceit. She taught him how to do it. She could have helped him work with it, or helped him resist it. She could have helped him become a better person. But instead, she influenced him in the wrong way. Such a heartbreak. See how thankful she dreamed up the scheme. She thought of it. It wasn't Jacob. It was Rebekah. She dreamed it up. She cooked the goat. I've eaten goat, and it tastes about like a deer, so that's not much deception, That's easy to see how that would work. But she disguised Jacob to impersonate Esau. She showed him how to do that. Now, I often hit this theme in my preaching, and I want to hit it again here, because we are tempted in our culture to be like everyone around us. We're tempted to be like the other Christians we know. And we call that average. Remember, I've said this many times. God never called you and me to be an average Christian. He called us to be real Christians, like Him. And if we're just like everybody around us, then we may be average, but we're not normal. All right? Normal Christians live like Jesus and try to live lives like Him. Now, the truth is, a real Christian is an oddity in our world. A real Christian is rare. Look where you work. Look around where you live. Look at your church. Look around you, and that person that lives that selfless life, that totally sold out to others and loving God and loving each other, that's a rare duck. That person, there's not that many of them around. So, like four-leaf clovers, they're just kind of rare. So tonight, resist the negative influences around you and keep your eyes upon the Lord. Don't try to be like somebody else, as good or as bad. Keep your eyes upon Jesus. Now, let's talk about manipulation. What is manipulating? When we try to control others, one of the worst places that this ever happens is in the marriage relationship of husband and wife. This happens so many times. And then it just passes right down to our children. Parents, mothers and dads, they'll try to manipulate each other. Guilt trips. You shouldn't do this because we try to manipulate each other. And it's simply not the way we're to live. I have discovered in my life, my wife and I have proved this with each other, the more we release each other to be free, to be ourselves, the better we are together. Whenever I try to control or she tries to control, we don't get along so good. But when we let each other loose, we truly find the greatest joy in marriage. So let's keep reading verse 18. And let's look at some more of this manipulation and control. So he went to his father and said, "My father." "Yes, my son," he answered. "Who is it?" Jacob said to his father, "I'm Esau, your firstborn. I've done as you told me. Please sit up and eat some of my game so that you may give me your blessing." Isaac asked his son, Well, how did you find it so quickly, my son? The Lord your God gave me success, he replied. When you get caught in a lie, blame it on God. Amen? You get all spiritual and religious. That'll hide you every time while you get by with it. Well, the Lord gave me success, he said. Then Isaac said to Jacob, come nearer so I can touch you, my son, to know whether you really are my son, Esau, or not. So Jacob went close to his father Isaac, who touched him and said, the voice is the voice of Jacob, but the hands are the hands of Esau. He did not recognize him, for his hands were hairy, like those of his brother Esau, or the goat skin was hairy. So he proceeded to bless him. Are you really my son Esau, he asked. I am, he replied. Then he said, my son, bring me some of your game to eat so that I may give you my blessing. Jacob brought it to him, and he ate, and he brought him some wine, and he drank. Then his father Isaac said to him, come here, my son, and kiss me. So he went to him and kissed him. When Isaac caught smell of his clothes, he blessed him, and he said, the smell of my son is like the smell of a field that the Lord has blessed. May God give you heaven's dew and earth's riches, and abundance of grain and new wine. May nations serve you, and people bow down to you. Be Lord over your brothers, and may the sons of your mother bow down to you. May those who curse you be cursed, and those who bless you be blessed. Well, everybody in this family, as I said earlier, is grabbing for control. Dad's trying to control, Mom's trying to control, Jacob's trying to control, and the little black sheep, poor Esau, he's not trying to control anything. For all of the first time, he's the hero of this story. And everybody else, all the godly people around him are failing right and left. He just wanted to be loved by his father. He just wanted to be loved by his mother. He just wanted to be loved. And everybody around him was taking advantage of him. So Jacob, as I said earlier, had tricked him out of his birthright. Now he tricked him out of his blessing. Well, Rebecca, she had a favorite. You got favorite kids in your family? We always tell every one of my kids and grandkids when we're with them, you're my favorite. Because they are right then. You know. Now, that's kind of trickery, isn't it? I didn't say it's perfect. So Rebecca, she wanted to have Jacob to have that blessing and that birthright. So she twisted the family. I don't know if you've noticed this or not, but the sooner or the quicker you could come to this understanding, the better your life will be. Listen very carefully. Control is an illusion. You don't really control someone else. The reason you can't control me and I can't control you is that the buttons are on the inside. You can't push the buttons to control me, and I can't push the buttons to control you. I push my own buttons. Everybody pushes their own buttons. And so control is simply an illusion. Release those around you to grow and love and learn and expand and be what God put them here to be. Turn people loose and let them be. Your efforts to control another almost always will blow up in your face. Almost always. If you really love somebody, release them. Turn them loose. Don't manipulate them. Don't control them. Just love them for who they are. Now, the deceit hurts families and destroys relationships. Let's keep reading about verse 30. After Isaac finished blessing him, and Jacob had scarcely left his father's presence, guess what? His brother Esau came in from hunting. He too prepared some tasty food and brought it to his father. Then he said to him, my father, please sit up and eat some of my game, so that you may give me your blessing. His father Isaac asked him, who are you? I'm your son, he answered, your firstborn Esau. Now notice that Isaac trembled violently. He realized what had happened. He'd been conned. He'd been tricked. It hurts to be betrayed, doesn't it? It hurts. When somebody tricks you and cons you and betrays you. And Isaac trembled violently. And he said, well, who was it then that hunted game and brought it to me? I ate it just before you came in and I blessed him. And indeed, he will be blessed. Words once said can never be recalled. Ooh, how many times have you opened your mouth and disengaged your brain and said something, and the minute it got out, you wish you could bring it back and not say it. It just can't be done. So when Esau heard his father's words, he burst out with a loud and bitter cry. And he said to his father, "Bless me too, my father." But he said, "Your brother came deceitfully and took your blessing." Esau said, "Isn't he rightly named Jacob?" Now, you get the irony there? Jacob the con man, the trickster. Esau said, "Well, you guys named him right."
Yeah.
This is the second time he has taken advantage of me. He took my birthright. Now he's taken my blessing. Then he asked, "Haven't you reserved any blessing for me?" Isaac answered Esau, "I have already," or the word already is not there, but "I've made him lord over you, and have made all his relatives his servants, and I have sustained him with grain and new wine. So what can I possibly do for you, my son?" The spoken blessing was like a contract. And it was, in the ancient world, it was spoken, it was irrevocable, it could not be changed. And they had to live with it. Verse 38, Esau said to his father, "Do you have only one blessing, my father? Bless me too, my father." Then Esau wept aloud. His father Isaac answered him, "Your dwelling will be away from the earth's richness, away from the dew of heaven above. You will live by the sword, and you will serve your brother. But when you grow restless, you will throw his yoke from off your neck." Now, if you'll stay with us over the next few weeks, we're going to watch this prophecy come true as Esau and Jacob do mend fences and get back together, and we'll watch some of this stuff happen. Now, deceitful words spoken set in motion a series of reactions. Things are going to happen. When you're deceitful in your family, in your job, you set in motion events that will work themselves out. It's simply the way it is. And so we find here that what happened was these boys separated from each other. One went to live down to Ur of the Chaldees back in Mesopotamia, and they split the brothers up. And you will find much later they're going to come back together, but it'll take a long time. So what do we do? What do we do? Live openly and honestly. Do not deceive. Do your best to be honest with everybody. Don't try to control people. Don't manipulate them. Just let God. If you want somebody changed, if there's something about me you want changed, don't try to change me. You tell God, because He can change me, and you can. So if you want something changed, tell God that to do the change, and ask God to do it. That's how this works. But only you can change you. Only you. If you're tonight here and you have never believed in the Lord Jesus Christ, you alone hold the key to your eternity. You can come and receive the gift God gave you, the gift of salvation. You get to choose it. You can reject it or you can choose it. My recommendation, my influence would be receive Christ and live. Father,